I know.
Get used to wanting, get used to needing. Get used to saying, I used to see him. Things never did quite go your way, oh, hey, oh. Don't be the one I throw away, oh, hey, oh. You wanna leave me all alone again, so low. All alone again, so low.
Welcome back to the Austin Public Library podcast. We're here at Little Walnut, joined by Mobley today, local Austin musician. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
What brought you to Austin, and why settle here, you know, when you do have this kind of desire to experience a whole bunch of different places?
Yeah. Well, what originally brought me to Austin was music. I spent the summer of my junior year here interning for a local independent record label, and just got to know the city a little bit that summer, and I knew I wanted to pursue music after college, so it was basically either LA, New York, or Austin, and Austin was the best suited to my personality at that point in time, for sure.
Yeah, and from what I gather, you just came off the road like within the last day or two, is that right?
Last night, yeah.
Last night, wow.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for being here.
Yeah.
How do you build a national audience when you're here in Austin, Texas?
That's a great question. I would love to know the answer to that question. I think it's twofold. I mean, part of it's just that grind of touring, but then part of it too is just finding some way to strike a chord more broadly, you know, usually through internet or radio based stuff. This has definitely been our biggest year so far. We had a song that just happened to get picked up by this playlist, and then it just hit 1 million plays like yesterday or something on Spotify. And so it enabled us to like go tour in Mexico, and like people showed up knowing the words to songs. And so like, I don't know, like that was just luck, you know. I don't know what the key or the answer is, but I think just hammer away at it, you know.
I was entertained by a story that I read that you told about an Amtrak ticket making a funny noise, and you bought another ticket just to hear the noise again. And you were talking about how you're inspired by sounds all around you. You know, it could be just everyday life. You know, obviously Mexico, there's some similarities, there's some differences culturally.
Right.
Did you have any kind of different sounds or experiences that you had there that you hadn't really ever had here in the U.S.?
That's a good question. The soundscape was definitely different in certain parts. Like San Miguel in particular was like quieter than basically anywhere I've ever been in the United States. I mean, I can think of a few really rural places that I've been in the United States that were quiet in similar ways, but there was also just something different about it. It was really, the place we were staying was kind of remote, but there were still plenty of people around. But I don't know, there's just a different kind of quiet there, and you hear different things. Like you could hear, like you heard different kind of insects. You heard different animals in the morning than you would hear. Even the cars sounded a little different, honestly. So like, I don't know, it was just it was a different soundscape in subtle ways. Yeah.
How do you take a sound that interests you, like that ticket sound or the sound of the road, whatever it may be? How do you take that from that kind of raw material stage to incorporating it somehow into actual music that you're putting out?
Yeah. It's usually really serendipitous. It's usually not something where I have this premeditated plan. I just kind of. It's really nice now that phones are so advanced. Like 10 years ago, like I would carry around a field recorder or something so that I'd have a good mic. And now with the mic on my phone is just as good as that stuff was. So I'm just constantly recording that stuff. Like the other day, I was in a parking garage that had a really good sound. Like when I closed the door, it was like, poof. And so I stood there for like 5 minutes closing my door. And so you just build a bank of this stuff, and then when you're in the studio working on a song, it's like, oh, I feel like this needs a sound that isn't exactly like a drum, or it isn't exactly like a guitar or whatever. And so you go through and then pull something up and then tweak it and shape it until it fits. But mostly it's just luck. It's just luck. Yeah, for me anyway.
If you could kind of pull one thread that runs through Austin music, how would you describe it?
It's an interesting question. I think it's changing a little bit. Man, all right. This is a hard question because I'm gonna walk a line of sounding like I'm saying something pejorative when I'm not trying to say something pejorative. So let me figure out how to say it. I think that over the past few years in Austin, there has emerged an interest in a kind of stagecraft and even theatricality that I really didn't see anywhere when I first moved here. Like there were a few artists, but I was really interested in that, and there were a couple other artists that I saw that were really interested in that, but it didn't feel like there was a big emphasis on it, and it felt weird to be one of the few people doing it. And I'm not saying I pioneered it here or anything like that, but it was hard to find other people who shared that interest. And it feels like now, like there are just so many artists who are really, really interested in going the extra mile to really put on a show for people. And I think Austin is developing that reputation elsewhere. Like nowadays when I go on tour and people see my show and it's really theatrical and kind of over the top, and then they're like, where are you from? And I'm like, oh, I'm from Austin. They're like, oh, okay, then it makes sense, you know? So I think that's an emerging thread for sure. And that's something that those bands that I just mentioned all share. And I think it's cool. It's a really cool thing. Yeah.
As I mentioned at the start, we're at Little Walnut Creek Library, and you told me this is your local library. Yeah. Why did you want to do this in the library? I mean, I know this is a library podcast. But
Yeah. I mean, well, so I'm okay. I'm trying to decide how long-winded to go on my answer. I guess the easiest answer is it's really close to my house. but the other answer is that I'm a leftist, and I like care about the commons, I care about public spaces, I care about all those things. And so everywhere I've ever lived, I've been an avid user of the library system. I'm constantly checking things out from here or online or whatever, because I think it's important. I think it's important that we have it. I think it's important that we use it to show that we need it. I think it's important that we protect it, all these things. And I don't know, there's just something about coming here to this place that we both own, in a sense. You know what I mean? This is our place. Like, we can do this here because it's ours. That's different from going to Starbucks, or it's different from going to some coffee shop or some cafe or some like rental meeting space or whatever. There's something different about this to me. And so yeah, this is like the fourth meeting I've done in a public library in like the last 4 weeks or something like that. So yeah.
I agree with you that libraries are a key to healthy communities. What do you think that does to a community to have a shared space that, like you were saying, this is our space. This is our collection. We share it.
I'm sure there are lots of people who have thought much more deeply about this and can speak more eloquently than I can. But in terms of what it's always meant to me, so I grew up. My father was in the military, so I grew up on bases where like everything was community property. You know what I mean? Even your house was public housing in a very real sense, and I think it encourages people to think of themselves as part of a collective. It encourages people to, just like as a kid, having access to all the masses of information that are available in here, both physically and then more, non-physically, in a more immaterial sense, like through the internet and through the different online libraries that you have access to. I don't know. I just felt, to me as a kid, I read all the time, and I just felt empowering to know that like these were my books. You know what I mean? And our books. Like they were the books that I shared with the people who lived in the area with me. I don't know. It communicates to you that like people care. They're interested in like you having access to the things that you need. Just so many things, and like in a real simple sense, it gives people a place to go where they can hang out and they don't have to pay anything. Like that's especially on a cold day like today, that's hugely important. So I don't know. I think they do so many things, and I'm worried about libraries right now. So I anything I can do to help, I'm definitely interested in.
Awesome. We appreciate that. Yeah, I think it is really powerful in a lot of ways to have a mindset instead of, even if it's something as simple as a book, instead of feeling like we all need to have our own.
Yes.
That, hey, let's just get some together and share them.
Yes.
I mean, it's such a simple concept, but I think it sends really powerful messages.
I totally agree. I think it's so important.
Yeah. Awesome. So yeah, where can people see you here in town, and then where can they find your music, say online? Yeah,
I am not a great self-promoter, so I didn't come with the date memorized for that show, but
you can Google it.
Yeah,
it's easy to find.
I'm playing Mohawk during Free Week. I think it might be the 9th, but that's going to be an awesome show. And then you can find that and music and all sorts of other stuff online at my website, which is mobleyWho.com, mobleyWho.com.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it once again. Thanks for being here. And that's it from the Austin Public Library.
Thanks.